Hello everyone, is my voice audible?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, thank you. We'll just wait for our chair to join in and then we'll start with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, you are, sir.
Yeah, I welcome all. I just wanted to convey that Professor Sachin Chaturvedi is held up in some meeting. He'll be joining us within 10 minutes.
Okay, sir, okay. We'll
So
wait.
in the meantime, we can have a round of introduction if you like to all our presenters. So we can do that, or you can check your sharing screen. PowerPoint.
Yeah, we can check our technical connectivity. And as Professor Chaturvedi joins in, we will start with the presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Kenneth, can you share your screen, please, so that we can just check it over for a minute? Or if you have some audio, do you have some audio to show? You're muted, sir.
I have no audio to show.
Okay,
sir.
okay, fine. Right. So perfect. Your screen is visible. Yeah. Thank you. Maybe you can stop sharing, please. Also, Dr. Myint, if you just can share your screen so that we can just check for a minute. You're muted, ma'am. Oh, yes, yes. Can you go slideshow, please, on the first screen, on the first slide? Go for a slideshow. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Right. Thank you. You can stop sharing.
And can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now may I stop my share
Yes.
screen?
Dr. Aditi?
Yes, sir.
Yes, maybe we can start over. Just came to know that he will be joining a little late between the session. So maybe we can start over and post that we can, the chair will be joining. Just got a message from Madhukar sir.
Okay, this is Dr. Amit speaking.
No, I'm from the technical team only.
Okay, I'll just take 1 minute. Just a minute.
Sure.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm so sorry we got delayed. Thanks, Dr. Aditi, for having me and also for accommodating this delay. So thanks. I'm so sorry.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
So should we begin with the session?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Namaskar and a very warm welcome to the 21st Science Council of Asia. The theme of the present session is Socio-technological transitions and the key economic sectors. I am Dr. Aditi Bapte, Consultant Research Junior, and I take immense pleasure in introducing our chair, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi. Professor Sachin Chaturvedi is Director General at the Research and Information Sector System for Developing Countries, RIS, a New Delhi-based policy research institute supported by the Government of India. He was Global Justice Fellow at the Macmillan Center for International Affairs at Yale University. He works on issues related to development economics, involving development finance. He is also on the board of the Reserve Bank of India. He has served as a visiting professor at JNU. He had been a developing country fellow at the University of Amsterdam 1996 and visiting fellow at the Institute of Advanced Studies, Shimla 2003, as well as a visiting professor scholar at the German Development Institute 2007. He is also on the editorial advisory board of ITS Bulletin Sussex, UK. So delighted to have you all, especially Professor Chaturvedi, and I request you to take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Aditi. We have great pleasure in getting associated with this very important initiative of ICSSR, which captures the essentials of our development. It provides the real bandwidth in terms of how we see selected areas of our science, technology, and social science connect. And that, I think, is extremely important for us to realize that socio-technological transitions that we are seeing, no economic progress now is possible without technological support. And I'm so happy today that we have a very, very accomplished panel today with us. Dr. Kenneth Barroga from Philippines, Dr. Myint from Myanmar is there with us. We also have Dr. Pradeep Kumar Choudhury from here in India, from Jawaharlal Nehru University. And we also have great pleasure in having Dr. Priya Dahiya from DU and Dr. Manoj Vimal from ICSSR, postdoctoral fellow, Giri Institute of Development Studies in Lucknow. We also have Dr. Anil Kumar Reddy from Haryana, from ICR National Dairy Research Institute. And friends and colleagues, it is important for us to see what role we actually think of science, technology, and its connect with social sciences, particularly for economic development. And I was thinking more in terms of making economic progress, economic development more oriented towards access, equity, and inclusion. And that, I think, is important from the point of view of how we look at STI, science, technology, innovation, more from the point of view of inclusion, more from the point of view of enabling access and more from the point of view of making it affordable, so bringing in equity in the process. So AEI, access, equity, and inclusion are some of the features which I feel are important for us to analyze when we think of STI-related solutions. We see them becoming a reality. You all are aware of India's position at WTO for TRIPS exemption. The COVID-19 vaccine, which we have seen getting developed in some countries, but some countries do not have access to them. So how do we make economic development, science, technology achievements accessible to all? And that access is important in terms of the socio-technological transitions that we see in economic sectors. So as we see 5G getting rolled out, 5G affecting the transition, but also excluding people. So how we avoid exclusions and how we bring in inclusions, I think are important, so that the people in the last person in the queue also should get access. And that's what traditionally have been the idea in terms of how we look at the dimensions of this. In RIS, we have computed an index called AEI index, and this AEI index is trying to address through principal component analysis some weightage we have assigned to various parameters to see how access-related indicators, equity-related indicators, and inclusion-related indicators are computed so that we can have meaningful outcome. And then we juxtapose that over various states and their budgetary priorities and provisions. So from that point of view, you find a greater effort in terms of how we go forward. There are new experiments that have also come up, and today's panel is extremely rich to contribute to that. In terms of how new and alternative solutions are possible. Like, for instance, if we talk about HIF, the Health Impact Fund, or Climate Impact Fund. So you incentivize innovation. You provide monetary support to innovation based on impact, because all technological developments do not contribute economic development. So those that are actually contributing are to be incentivized. So medicines which are contributing, seeing their impact value, we can incentivize that so that we do not carry forward the dead weight of patents, because payments, royalty payments are huge. And those royalty payments push up the prices of drugs. Same happens in case of seeds in agriculture. The Monsanto Myco BT cotton seeds are 15 times more expensive than others, and you know, huge royalties paid to multinational corporations. So we need to see in terms of what impact it has, and same goes to climate sensitive technologies. So technology transition per se requires greater efforts to see how socio-technological transition can also see impact measurements. And that's the role policy makers, policy researchers have to do. Last point that I want to make is in terms of need for creating global public goods. How we create global public goods, because that's where important dimension has to come in. Like, for instance, India has created NPCI, National Payments Corporation of India. And this NPCI is facilitating payments at a much lesser cost. So if you go for any Western credit card like Citibank or Standard Chartered Master or Visa, you pay much higher than the local card. So that difference reduces the cost of accessing technology. So that dimension is important. So how we create digital India, how we create startup India through several of these global public goods. And there may be digital Myanmar, digital or startup Myanmar or other technologies. So the idea of the Indian Council of Social Science Research, ICSSR, is to facilitate these discussions and bring together science, technology, and social science research for a better world. And that's what Aditi was mentioning in the beginning in her remarks, that our idea is for a better world, and better world where we leverage technology for economic development, for social development, and a development which includes everyone. So those changes are important. They are going to play an extremely important role as we assign budgetary allocations, as we assign specific role to each one of them. With these words, I once again very warmly welcome my panel, very accomplished panel and very bright young minds with us. So I now would invite in the order that is written, and I have great pleasure in inviting Science Research Analyst, R&D for Development and Innovation Division of the Department of Science and Technology of Philippines, Dr. Kenneth Barroga. So Dr. Kenneth, you have the floor. And Aditi, how much time we are giving to each one of our speakers? Around 10 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Dr. Barroga, please help us manage time. This is 2:20 here in India, but 10 minutes are standard irrespective of time zone. So you're most welcome. Please begin your presentation.
Okay. Before I begin with my presentation, my courtesies to our panelists, to the chair, Professor Sachin, Chaturvedi, Director General of Research and Information System for Developing Countries, New Delhi, my co-presenters and attendees of this 21st Science Council of Asia Conference, good afternoon. This study was a result of collective efforts of our Department of Science and Technology Regional Director, Dr. Anthony Sales, and our staff in Smart Manufacturing Project, Ms. Vanessa Wabina, and yours truly. This was actually accepted by the Philippine Journal of Science and was included in the December 2021 issue of Researches. You may access the full article by scanning the QR code at the left side provided in my presentation. So this is the outline of my presentation. In a nutshell, the rapid developments in the manufacturing industry gave rise to the need, particularly of micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSMEs, to be equipped with smart manufacturing. In order to keep up with the fourth industrial revolution or FIRE, with that, we saw how awareness about the technology became a critical factor in the implementation and development of technological innovation among MSMEs as a way to enhance their operation and increase productivity and competitiveness. In this study, through the principal component analysis and to mixed method analysis of our data, we assess the level of awareness of MSMEs and their adoption. And from that, we develop a modified conceptual framework and recommended policy options related to SM. Let me first define smart manufacturing as used in our study. Smart manufacturing, technically, it is the interconnectivity of machines that provide real-time responses to the changing manufacturing needs by employing various information and communication technologies. It enables an integrated production system that improves operational performance and increases productivity. In a global study, it is noteworthy that despite the advantages of SM or smart manufacturing, only a few MSMEs have fully implemented approaches towards the development of FIRE, and majority of them are still in the development stage. With the growing demand for inclusive digital transformation, governments are crafting policies and programs to support the business sector, focusing on MSMEs to remain competitive. In the Philippines, the complementing policy is the Inclusive Innovation Strategy, or we call it ICUBE-S. Another government program of the Philippines is through the Small Enterprises Technology Upgrading Program or setup of the Department of Science and Technology. It assists the MSMEs in implementing technological innovations to enhance their operations and increase productivity and competitiveness. With the relevance of FIRE, the DOST is planning to upgrade the current program to set up 4.0 to address the challenging needs for FIRE or Fourth Industrial Revolution. Given that knowledge is the first stage of technology uptake, according to Rogers' diffusion of innovation or DOI theory, the evaluation of MSME's extent of awareness and implementation of the emerging technologies is an essential step for countries such as the Philippines that are still in the planning phase of the shift. Manufacturing today allows the machines to communicate with one another, where data is transmitted throughout the entire system. In this study, the realization of SM depends on the integration of cross-cutting technologies, such as the following: the IoT, cyber-physical system, big data analytics, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, robotics, radio frequency identification, 3D printing, and augmented reality. So these are the objective of our study. Mainly the objective of the study is to ascertain how aware Philippine MSMEs are in terms of SM, their level of adopting SM technologies, and SM awareness adoption Nexus. Specifically, these are the objectives of the study. And the hypothesis of the study from the objectives are this one. First one is on the cloud computing and 3D printing are the most important technologies that can explain the variability of awareness and adoption. Second hypothesis is medium-sized companies are more aware of SM technologies than micro and small enterprises. The third one is on medium-sized companies are more likely to adopt SM technologies than micro and small enterprises. The higher the level of awareness, the more likely to adopt SM technologies, and MSMEs have poor awareness and adoption of SM technologies. So the conceptual framework of the study with mapping of the hypothesis are shown in the slide. The framework presents that the study considered the 9 SM technologies and the knowledge of the MSMEs on these SM technologies. The methodology that was used here is we have a sample, an optimal sample size that was identified through a standard sample size formula, and we used a non-probabilistic sampling to determine the setup cooperators respondents under the manufacturing sector. A varying degree of awareness of the 9 SM technologies was explored. So these are some of the MSMEs were asked if they have adopted or not adopted the technology. And we utilized the explanatory mixed method research, which employed quantitative tools such as principal component analysis, index construction, and Pearson R test, and validates the result with qualitative through triangulation method using KII or key informant interviews. And we developed the program to the codes in our software. And the summary of indicators are shown in your screen. And the respondents out of the population of 7,497 cooperators, we have 496 MSMEs responded to the survey. Out of that, 140 are micro enterprises, 321 are small, and the remaining are medium enterprises. Generally, the respondents are from the food processing industry, as presented in the table, and the industry type is based on the Philippine Statistical Authority category or industry type. Given the differences in the data set, they were reduced using the PCA without losing significant information. Based on the script plot, the first dimensions or PC1 of both the awareness and adoption have the highest explained variances. This indicates that 59.85% of the variation in the awareness is explained by the first dimension. Likewise, in the adoption, the majority or 25.6% of the variation explained by PC1. At this portion, this study considered the PC1 as the point of analysis since the remaining percentages are relatively small and comparable in size. So the resulting SM technologies among MSMEs using the PCA, the first one is on the 9th technology. The cloud computing is the 2 most recognized technologies, and 3D printing. And it means that MSMEs are most knowledgeable on the cloud computing among the SM enabling technologies, which parallels Moff et al. 2017 study. Using equal fractal interval, indices between 0.22 to 0.25 are considered as poor, 0.25 to 0.5 as below average, 0.5 or 0.75 as average, and 0.75 to 1 are respondents with high awareness or adoption. The table presented summarizes the level of SM awareness and adoption among MSMEs. On the upper table presented, out of the total samples, 29 MSMEs are highly aware of SM technologies, and the rest is disaggregated to the poor knowledge of MSMEs on smart manufacturing. High awareness means the most desirable level of knowledge with the full understanding of SM and its technologies. Based on the overall weighted awareness index, this result implies that medium-sized companies are more knowledgeable of SM technologies than micro and small enterprises, which confirms the second hypothesis. The same categories were utilized in the adoption index. The findings show that none of the MSMEs highly adopted cross-cutting technologies as presented in the lower table. Only 4 enterprises or 0.81% of the respondents have an average uptake while 9.88% are below average. The adoption rate of most businesses is poor, which indicates that they have implemented 0 to 2 technologies. Of the 443 poorly adopted MSMEs, 61.91% of which did not accept any technology, 7.9% have one technology, and 26.19% have two technologies that are concentrated mainly in IoT and cloud computing, which are the simplest form of smart manufacturing technology. As indicated or discussed earlier, this study aims to prove the influence of awareness and implementation, as the awareness of SM technologies rises from micro to medium-sized businesses from 0.223 to 0.251 to 0.263. The possibility of adoption also increases. However, based on the person R test, the correlation among MSMEs shows a very weak correlation at 0.113, but it has a p-value of 0.012, suggesting a significant correlation at the 5% level of significance. The analysis manifests a weak correlation between awareness and adoption, thus having a minimal relationship between the two dimensions. In conclusion, the study developed a modified conceptual framework focusing on the level of awareness and adoption of SM technologies among MSMEs. Using the framework, the study confirms that medium-sized enterprises or companies are more adaptive and aware of emerging technologies than micro and small enterprises. However, the overall knowledge and acquisition of these technologies are poor among MSMEs. The study further showed that awareness has a weak correlation towards adoption, which indicates that knowledge does not ensure the likelihood of businesses acquiring technological innovation. The study further showed that awareness has a weak correlation towards adoption, which indicates that the knowledge does not ensure the likelihood of businesses to acquire technological innovation. Among the 9 technologies, cloud computing and 3D printing were the most important technologies. In general, the MSME sector, particularly medium-sized companies, can drive the future growth and prosperity of the Philippines because they are more adaptive and they are more aware than the micro and small enterprises. Policy recommendation for this research. This study offered a series of recommendations for multiple stakeholders in the business ecosystem, including local government and non-government units, to address the challenges and increase technology adoption among MSMEs, such as the following. Government institutions should strengthen technological awareness through scaling up FIRE and SM knowledge building activities. The UST Setup 4.0 may prioritize medium-sized companies as they are more willing to provide more investments in adopting SM technologies such as cloud computing and 3D printing. Findings of this research may serve as a guide to the DUST to develop efficient strategies for a Setup 4.0 implementation. We are glad to announce to the body that these policy recommendations were presented to the Regional Research Development and Innovation Committee of Region 11 and secured endorsement to the Regional Development Council 11, which is the highest policy-making body in the region. Through the Resolution Number 4, Series of 2022, endorsing to the RDC 11 the development and implementation of regional programs that will scale up technological awareness on FIRE and smart manufacturing among MSMEs. Our acknowledgement to the Asian Productivity Organization and DAP for initiating this is part of the DUST's effort to foster an inclusive innovation ecosystem for emerging technologies emanating from Asian Productivity Organization and DAP project. The book on Smart Manufacturing National Implementation Framework is now published by the APO or ASEAN Productivity Organization, in which yours truly wrote pages 72 to 100, a chapter about the Philippines. You may access the full article by scanning the QR code at the bottom left provided in this slide. The authors would also like to thank the DUST Central and Regional Offices for assisting with the deployment of the survey. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Kenneth Barroga, for very interesting presentation and for flagging some very important issues with your sample size of 496 firms which responded to your SM technology survey. I think some very important conclusions have come in. I would encourage all our participants to put in chat box if they have any points, clarifications or questions to you. As I see, we lost out some time earlier and we are running out of time. So I would not get into discussion now, but we would pick up your paper for questions. I myself have 2 questions in my mind, but I would come back to you. Let me now invite Dr. Myint, Professor, Department of Management Studies, Yangon University of Economics, Myanmar. So, Dr. Myint, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, all. I'm honored that I have the chance to present my research at 21st SCA conference. My research is about e-commerce adoption and competitive advantage of Myanmar e-commerce firms and online shops. I am Myint from Yangon University of Economics, Myanmar. Now may I start my research presentation. In this contemporary business environment, business model innovation through technology adoption is the secret of success for the firms. During this COVID-19 epidemic, the role of e-commerce became obvious in changing the business model from traditional into contemporary. In this era, to gain competitive advantage, businesses must not be isolated from e-commerce. This is the importance of my study. Because of COVID-19 epidemic, people are finding ways to buy goods and services virtually. Thus, if a business adopts the e-commerce but at the optimum level, it can gain success. This e-commerce adoption level should be fitted in the external environmental context, especially in Myanmar. In Myanmar, although institutional support starts, many weaknesses are still in e-commerce sector. Thus, the research findings from the factors influencing e-commerce adoption level and its effect on competitive advantage will be very supportive to state and also to the institutions. They will support effectively to the development of e-commerce in Myanmar. This research has two objectives. These are to explore the factors affecting on the e-commerce adoption level and to analyze the influence of e-commerce adoption level on the competitive advantage of e-commerce firms and online shops in Myanmar. Now may I present some background theories I have reviewed. The first theory is TOE, technological, organizational, and environmental factors are influencing on technology adoption of the organization. Second background theory is TTPB. The three factors, attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control have effect on the behavioral intention. And this intention will lead to the actual behavior. The third background theory I have reviewed is system theory. System is a set of interrelated and interdependent elements, and system is also a loop of input, process, output, and feedback. We should consider the businesses as the systems. After reviewing some theories, I have also reviewed some related previous papers. The first paper I have reviewed stated that perceived benefits of innovations, organizational readiness, and external pressure are affecting on adoption of innovation at the businesses. The second paper prescribed that organizational factors, attributes of innovation, environmental factors, and managerial factors are affecting on e-commerce adoption level at the businesses. I have also reviewed the paper presenting e-commerce adoption levels and competitive advantage. After reviewing some theories and previous papers, I have constructed the conceptual framework. Here you can see two organizational factors, finance and employee IT knowledge. Three, managerial factors, managers' relationship with employees, managers' support and consent on e-commerce knowledge and their feelings towards internet and e-commerce. And three, forces from competitors, customers and suppliers, and government support. All these factors can affect on levels of e-commerce adoption. And this e-commerce adoption level can influence on competitive advantage of Myanmar e-commerce firms and online shops. May I present research design? Two data sources, primary data and secondary data, are used for the sampling. Simple random sampling method is applied to select the 30 firms out of total 40 members of e-commerce association of Myanmar. The structured questionnaire is used for the research approach. Both qualitative and quantitative approaches are followed. From qualitative analysis, this is conducted with in-depth interviews with 5 selected owners. It is found that the Myanmar e-commerce firms and online shops are facing 3 major problems. It is very difficult to retain talented employees and skillful employees at these small firms. The second issue is legal issue, and they are also facing the fraud issue. Concerning the issue to retain skill and talent at the small firms. I would like to explain a little bit. And most of the firms and online shops are not large in size, but at their firms, their employees must have multi-skills for multitasking transactions. They have to do online promotion, online sales, and also cash transaction by hybrid manner. That's why they must have both hard and soft skills. So to retain such talented employees, they should pay relatively higher salaries and benefits to their employees. But during this era, for the small firms and shops, it is very difficult to get the sales revenue amount enough to pay all operating expenses, especially for higher salaries and wages for their employees. This is the first issue. Second issue is legal issue. This industry is fragmented and proliferated with various mom and pop firms and shops. Large-sized firms and online shops are legally registered and they are running at the spacious office buildings. But there are many small online shops. They are running at their homes. They don't need to follow the registration procedure legally. This is the legal issue. And also, they have the fraud issue. Fraudsters can know some information of buyers who followed the posts and wrote the comments at the firm's Facebook pages or websites. Thus, fraudsters may use unethically the names of the e-commerce firms to lie buyers. Now, may I present the findings from descriptive analysis? Here you can see most of the respondent firms have average level of finance and employee ID knowledge to adopt e-commerce. Concerning the managerial factors, their managers build relationship with employees. They are supporting to their employees. They have the good feelings towards e-commerce. But all these factors are just at the above average level to adopt e-commerce at their firms. They are also under the forces from competitors, customers, and suppliers. Also, they are receiving government support to adopt e-commerce at their firms. But all these forces and the government support, they gain just at the above average level. Now, may I present the e-commerce adoption level of respondent firms? Most of the firms are doing e-commerce just at the level 2. This is e-window. Now, may I explain a little bit about the levels of e-commerce adoption. Level 1 is e-connectivity. The firm has connected to the internet with only email but no website. Level 2 is e-window. The firm has static website that present company's information and advertise its products with one-way communication without any interactivity with buyers. Level 3 is e-interactivity. The firm has an interactive website that accepts online orders, queries, forms, and emails from customers and suppliers, but online payment is not integrated. Level 4 is e-transaction. The firm accepts online transaction through website that allows buying and selling, including customer services. The highest level is level 5, e-enterprise. The firm has a website connected with computer systems that allows the company to do all business transactions online. This slide shows the competitive advantage of existing e-commerce firms and online shops. They can reduce their operating cost at the average level. They are growing at the average level, and they can also do innovation and differentiation, but at the above average level. Now, may I present the results from multiple linear regression analysis? Here you can see the organizational factor. The firm's finance has positive significant effect on e-commerce adoption level. And concerning the managerial factors, top management support has positive significant effect on e-commerce adoption level. Concerning the environmental factors, force from competitors and force from suppliers have positive significant effect on e-commerce adoption level. Now, may I continue my presentation with results from analysis on the effect of e-commerce adoption level on competitive advantage of the firms. Concerning the competitive advantage by cost reduction, e-commerce adoption level has positive effect on firms' competitive advantage by cost reduction. And the e-commerce adoption level also has the positive effect on competitive advantage by firms' growth. But the e-commerce adoption level has no effect on competitive advantage by innovation, and also no effect on competitive advantage by firms' differentiation. Now may I conclude my presentation. The e-commerce adoption level is positively affecting on cost effectiveness and firms' growth. However, firms' highest adoption level in Myanmar is just at level 4. Most of the respondent firms and online shops are doing e-commerce just at the level 2. They have static website, but no interactivity with buyers. They are largely relying on Facebook page. And it is also found that they are facing three main problems: the problem to retain talent and skills at the small firms, and also weakness in registration law. And they are also facing the fraud issues. Legal and fraud issues are interrelated. These issues can be solved by state and institutions, but for the problem to retain skill and talents, the firms should try for good marketing, financial strength, and for top management support. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Myint Manki, for very, very interesting presentation. You have brought out the challenges that firms are facing, the gap of skills, and also the limited ability to enter only in stage 2 of e-commerce. So excellent paper. Congratulations to you. I would now invite Dr. Pradeep Kumar Choudhury, and I would again encourage all the participants to send questions, observations in the chat box and ask questions to Dr. Myint Manki if they have any points to raise with her or any clarifications to seek. Let me now invite Dr. Pradeep Kumar Choudhury, Assistant Professor of Economics at Zakir Husain Center for Educational Studies, School of Social Sciences at Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. Dr. Choudhury.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. And just, thank you, Professor Chaturvedi, for this opportunity, and also IC sir. This is like an interesting debate is going on, and I want to add a few more points to the debate, what Professor Chaturvedi started also. So my idea is looking at particularly analyzing the interface of science, technology, and social science. I think that is the burning debate that is going on, how they are being integrated, and how we can bring a platform where we like three different ideas, let's say science, technology, and social sciences can be integrated. And that I am trying to look at in the particularly in the context of changing labor market in India. So before getting into my detailed discussion, let me get into the context. What are the beginning points? Some of the beginning points that I want to bring in are as follows. One is, if you see the 2019 World Development Report, which is titled The Changing Nature of Work, so that clearly says that how technology, the revolution in the technology, which is helping a lot to the human society, including at the pandemic time, it is actually this technological revolution that is happening. An important feature of this technological revolution is reshaping the world of work, that is the job market. And that is actually connected with the skills demanded in the labor market. Kind of skills that we require today is not the kind of skills that we are requiring, let's say 10 years down the line, even 5 years down the line. So that is point number one. I will get into these debates in detail. Demand for skills, because skill is another interesting debate that is going on in many developing countries, and there is a clear focus, policy focus in the Indian context to improve the skill. So, but what kind of skills are being demanded in the labor market? That's one, and that is being well linked with the technological revolution or digitalization, we can say, in a narrow sense. So what I'm trying to say, the demand for skills that improve the adaptability of workers and allowing them to transfer easily from one job to another is increasing. That is very clearly stated in many reports, including the changing nature of work, that is WDR, World Development Report. So employers now today, the employers look for combination of both higher order cognitive skills, let's say assume that it is technical for the time being, and the skills that are also related to socio-behavioral patterns, like socio-behavioral skills, let's say curiosity and creativity and many other socio-behavioral skills. So they are very integrated. So if one graduate is getting only technical skills, so he or she may be obsolete in the labor market. His or her skills may not be useful. That's the point that is coming up, and I will get into the debate in detail little later. If you see the NEP 2020, which is, I think the debate is going on and implementation strategies are being developed by the government of India, and many states are progressively trying to adopt that. There also, if you see one important emphasis, like one important point that has come up very clearly is the multidisciplinarity training, multidisciplinarity education, multidisciplinarity training to the graduates. And one of the important objectives is to face the changing labor market needs that is being clearly stated in the policy document. There I want to bring where my training is started. My training is in, I am an economist by training. So, and I am employed in a very multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary center, which is Zakir Center for Educational Studies. We understand education from different disciplinary perspective, sociology, history, philosophy, economics, psychology. So there, for the last 7 years, I am being nurtured as an interdisciplinary scholar. There I see the importance of social science and humanities in the content, connecting that with the technology. That's the point of debate for today's discussion on my idea. What I'm trying to say, the role of humanities and social sciences in producing these skill sets, particularly the skills that is required, the socio-behavioral skills, has found an increasing attention both in the academia and policy space. So that is one, and it is not only the case in India, it is rather this discussion is what we call very broad and very rigorous in many other countries, including some developing countries and mostly in developed countries. But what I see actually, and why I was interested in looking at this idea is, I don't find, I don't know how many of you will be agreeing to this, but at least when I nurtured this idea, I found that knowledge in examining this changing interface of science, technology, and social science remains fragmented and limited in the Indian context, though there are few studies in some other countries' context, but in Indian context, it's very less. But the paradox is, even if we have a clear policy focus, we don't have evidence. Even we are not generating a good amount of debate on this issue. There my idea starts. Let me get into my presentation of 3-4 important points. So major points I am trying to bring in this presentation are the following. One is I will first discuss the changing nature of work, where I will bring how technology and the production and also the job market is changing. Second one, I will get into the debate of education, skill and labor market. What are the new orders and directions that we are facing? Third one, I will get into the core argument of interface of science, technology, and social science. Then I will give some points to think over, like some points to ponder over to the audience. So let us see, maybe I have 7-8 minutes more. So let me get into one by one. If you see the changing nature of work, there I am bringing the technology, production, and jobs, how technology is changing the production structure and also the job market. That's the point focus of my discussion. So here I want to say 3-4 important points. As I said before, the World Development Report 2019, which is on changing nature of work, has created a clear discourse, a fresh discourse, I would say, on the issue of education, technology, and labor market. The world of work is changing very rapidly, and technology takes the role, like leading role on this. Technology is advancing at an unprecedented pace across the world, and it has transferred the global labor market too much. To a larger extent, it has transformed the global labor market. The adoption of exponential technologies is disturbing industries, their production structure. When I am saying disrupting, I am trying to say it's not a negative sense connotation I am drawing, but there is a disruption in the production process by creating new markets and also transforming existing markets. So kind of the new markets are being generated, some markets are being transformed with this through product and business innovations. In the new age of automation, if you see the digitalization largely, and also the unprecedented technological advances, the nature of job market in several economies is changing rapidly. In the labor market, when I say the labor market is changing, that means what I'm trying to infer is job roles are being drastically modified, sometimes it is redefined and changed altogether. And certain types of jobs are becoming redundant also, and some new jobs and occupations are being created in the labor market. Today, what I'm trying to say, we are riding a new wave of uncertainty. What is being said in the World Development Report very clearly because of the technological interventions. And that is actually changing the very basic characteristics of labor market. So very basic characteristics of production process is changing very rapidly. An important one, if I want to highlight one, is the replacement of physical labor by machines. That is very much happening in the today's context. In some writing, in some of the writing that I refer at least, it is called as a job destruction to some extent, but I am not agreeing to that point that is a job destruction. because there are some alternative arguments to this, what says that this is not job destruction, rather new jobs are being also created. But this is a set of arguments that clearly say that there are job destruction due to the technological interventions. And the automation.
Dr. Choudhury, you have 1 more minute.
Oh, sorry. Am I finished? I don't know how. Okay, I'll get into the few other important points. If you give me 5 minutes, sir, I will wind up. So this,
two more minutes, would that be helpful?
I was not calculative. I don't know. Actually, I didn't see. No issues. I will try to be precise.
Please help us try to come on your main points.
Yeah. So this is one point, that changing nature of work is happening, how it is actually leading towards the disruption in the and connecting the technology production and jobs. These are some of the points that I said, but the second point that I want to bring is how education, skill and labor market. And there, what are the new orders and directions that we are seeing today? As I said, technology also reshaping the skills needed for work. The kind of skills that was required at some point of time is not the case today. And there is also an analysis of skill gaps and all. I'm not getting into that debate as such. But if you see, there are differential demand for skills today. Demand for advanced cognitive skills, as I said, socio-behavioral skills, and skills, skill combinations associated with greater adaptability is rising. Like, suppose there are some instant changes or uncertainty comes to the labor market, how likely that you will be adapted to the new changes is an important thing that is being debated. The share of employment in occupations in like non-routine cognitive and socio-behavioral skills is increasing very rapidly. Because what I'm trying to say, the premium is rising for skills that cannot be replaced by robots. The skills that can be replaced by robots, there the premium is a little less, where the skills which cannot be replaced, like the socio-behavioral skills, adjustment skills, those are actually highly demanded. If you see the technology, education and labor market interface, there what I'm trying to bring, technology and changing relationship between education and labor market. This is the point. Because technology is intervening between education and labor market, and that is very critical to understand at this context. Technology-led changes in the labor market, I said technology-led changes in the labor market gives different targets for the education sector to achieve. My point is whether our education system, let's say Indian higher education system, even the school education system, is ready to adopt that. NEP has said very clearly few points, but how seriously we are going to implement is an issue. Otherwise, this will create a havoc, I think, very uncertainty in the labor market. Uncertainty among youth is very high because of this mismatch. And how the skills and training imparted in institutions will prepare graduates for the future job market is a great question. Graduates are not sure about the use of knowledge and skills they are getting from the classrooms or even informal context. You can see one example I can see where I work effectively is the engineering education. You can see what is happening to the country's engineering education sector today, how many colleges are being shut down, what is the employability of the graduates and so on and so forth. I'm not getting into that debate. So my point here is how the universities or higher education institutions in India are responding to these changes. And what are the existing frameworks? How the recommendations made in NEP 2020 are going to change the discourse in the country are critical questions. Let me get into my last point, that is interface of science, technology, and social sciences. One important idea that comes to our mind and is being debated, not only now, even before also. That's the reason we have humanities and social science departments and IITs, NITs, many engineering colleges. And the idea was to integrate science with social sciences. So what I see, we don't have much empirical evidence to find out how effective that is. And also, we don't have much sense of understanding in interlinking science and social science even today. If you see, despite what I'm trying to say here, despite ever-increasing influence of technology on human endeavors, technical education in India is offered with early specialization very clearly, which is being highlighted in the NEP 2020, and streamlining of students into narrow areas of study. That is clear, and NEP 2020 is trying to broaden that. Over what is the data? Data is saying that over 40% of all colleges in the country run only a single program. That is being quoted in NEP 2020. We have technical institutions who offer course on humanities, and IIT system is an example to this. But there are universities in India who offer both technical and humanities courses through credit system. But how effective that is, how integrative they are, it's not clear to me, at least, even today. But how far they have succeeded in achieving the objective of impacting this interdisciplinary knowledge, which is the focus area, is not being discussed. The discourse generated so far on this portrays some failed story, I would say. That is my understanding of the issue. Why so? Is it a demand side issue, that is students are not interested to be trained in interdisciplinary field? Or what's the fear with the student for opting interdisciplinary courses? I am not sure. Is it the case that higher education institutions are not convinced like they are making an attempt to convince the learners to get the benefits that they are getting from the humanities courses, even if their major is on technical field. Let me end by saying 2-3 important points which are needed, which are actually the points for debate. I am not giving any conclusion to it. So if some points come in the discussion, I will definitely attempt. Emergence of the what, if you read one important book that has come up very clearly is The Death of Human Capital by Brown, Lauder and Chen in 2020. That clearly tells there is an emergence of new human capital. And when we say new human capital, we are saying the death of the book itself is the death of human capital. There they are saying that the kind of human capital we keep generating from early years is not the case. Now we are getting into a new human capital theory, and that needs to be understood by each country. And that is the point where we can integrate science and social science very clearly. And they have very clearly said this is an alternative approach to education and jobs. I am not sure how their arguments are convincing to some extent, but there are some problems also to that. I don't have time to discuss on that, but this is some interesting point that came up. The NEP 2020 recommends that the education system in India must provide students with broad-based or multidisciplinary education. That is a great debate that is going on in our country, which should impart 21st century skills while developing specialized knowledge with true disciplinary or disciplinary rigor or interdisciplinary framework. But how it is being implemented, we are not sure. Rethinking humanities and social science in the digital age. That is an important point I want to bring in, that how we will reposition the humanities and social science in a digital age is not clear to us, and further debate is required on this. So I want to say that there should be a clear marriage between humanities and social science and STEM education, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that is considered an essential gateway to produce graduates with advanced cognitive and other skills that are required into or that is demanded in the changing labor market context. Interestingly, this discourse is not very new. You can find out, but it has different policies. Even 68, 86 policies, education policies, they have brought this. But this is not being taken the way it should have been taken in the policy space. So I will end by saying that NEP 2020 also says that, and I quote, instead of solely mechanistic routes of learning, very mechanistic route of learning, route learning, college and universities must encourage active learners to develop the abilities of independent, logical, and scientific thinking, which is the need of the today's labor market. Creativity and problem solving and decision making. So these are some of the new skills. I won't say new skills, but these are being said new in the context of digital age. So those needs to be understood very clearly. I sincerely thank the panel, like the chair and the IC sir, for giving me an opportunity. I will be happy to respond if any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Choudhury, for very stimulating presentation. Death of human capital is something that I think the debate is still on. The jury is still out. And I'm sure you must have stimulated many minds. Let me now invite Dr. Priya Dahiya, Assistant Professor, Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi, Emerging Technology in Retail Management. So, Dr. Priya, help me manage time and see your clock for 10-minute management. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving me this valuable opportunity. My paper title is Emerging Technology in Retail Management. As we all know, the retail industry's business has been around for centuries, and it all started with a community journal shop where the people of the community would shop for items of necessity. So as society advanced with population increase, leading to expanded cities and new advanced technologies gave rise to the interconnectivity as very communications between different societies and cities. Opportunity for a specialty store were set up. And shopping once depend only on the human interaction in retail.
Sorry to disturb in between, ma'am. Can you, whenever you wish to change the slide, just say next slide, please. So,
okay.
Yeah,
sure.
please say the next slide now.
Okay.
Yeah, can you change the next slide, please? Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you want to change this slide, just say next slide. So the technical team will change from
okay,
the
sir. Okay, done. So we are as we see, the shopping once depend only the human interactions in the retail store with a very little catalog set up on the side. Those days are approaching as an end. The company of Apple allowing paying for the purchase and walking out the store without taking to any without talking to anyone. So meanwhile, robots are now taking place of human who check the inventory on the counter, and most of these issues can be solved by the appropriate use of technology. So today the retail, next slide please. Today the retails need to transform their IT capabilities for a number of reasons. First, to respond the rapid emerging trends and deliver superior quality products and services to customer with flexible speed. Second, to rise brand awareness among customers, increase sale, retain existing consumers and attract new ones. Third, to aggregate and analyze customer data to enhance differentiation. And fourth, to operate the business more effectively, retailers need to have system working across stores to ensure the effective use of products for their business process, and to integrate different part of the retail organization. So information technology, please next slide. Information technology is the application to the computer of a store, recover, transmit, and manipulate data, often in context of business or other enterprises. And today, the use of information technology in retail has become possible as a result of the specialization of IT sector. So basically, next one, basically the IT technology is retailing to provide some key areas of information like product information, customer information, and operation information like logistic allocation, schedules, inventories, new release, promotions, supply and demands, etc. So the retailing industries has been witnessing some exciting developments. Presently, the factors that lead to the need for information technology in retail stores are globalization of business organization. As we discussed, the increasing of globalization has led to growing exposure to the foreign market, resulting in increasing demand for international shopping experiences as our industries become more global. In its manufacturing and marketing operations especially, it is required to a great use of information technology to reduce the time and space barriers. So competition is one another important factor. So competition forces the retailers to become more efficient and effective. To gain the competitive advancement by the use of information technology to reduce operating cost through the automations, and to improve the product or service quality by providing quality assurance with the product differentiation. So next one, please. To meet the expectations of the customer with the globalization, the world is brought closer and the world economy is quickly developing toward a single interdependent system. So information can share quickly and easily from all over the globe. So the barriers of linguistic and geographical boundaries can be turned down, and the people can share their information's ideas with each other very comfortably. So to meet these requirements in a speedy way has demand the need of information technology. Inventory management, as we see, it can information technology can also help us in manufacturing industries to create a work order, bill of materials, and other product related documents. Without this information, you cannot plan and execute retail strategies for your future. So IT can build or speed up the business and delivering cost serving benefit to the companies. Store management, information technology is beneficial for store management also, that give alert to stock out items, and it also help us in forecasting. So through the IT, more accurate forecasting can be made based on the totality of this information. So overall, the new approach of demand for casting in retailing will contribute to the accuracy of future plans and the overall efficiency and profitability of retail operations. Next one. Now let's discuss the major examples of technological development in retailing. First one is radio frequency identification. So
Yeah, you have
radio
1 more
frequency
minute.
identification. Okay, I will try, sir. Radio frequency identification in the retail industries has solved major problems relating to customer service. With the help of RFID, it become easy for the sales staff to locate a particular item in a store and check the availability in less times. So in short, like barcode, RFID tag identify with more advanced level. So the RFID in retail help in following ways. It's improve the level of customer service, increase customer loyalty, and better inventory management and level tracking. And it's also reduce the time and labor cost, etc. Next one. So the point of sale, POS. So capturing data at the time and place of sale is now done with the help of point of sale system. So point of sale system use computer or specialized terminals that are combined with cash registered and barcode readers, optical scanners and magnetic readers for accuracy and intensity capturing the transactions. So POS is an electronic service that provides the business with the capability to retain and analyze the wide range of transformation data on the continuous basis. Next one is smart operating system. Next slide. So a smart operating system supply chain can look very different from industry to industries, but companies across industries share a challenge like finding ways to better management, growing uncertainty and complexity to improve the supply chain performance. So to improve their supply chain, companies have made sizable investment in the range of technology software solutions. So smart operating systems are used to manage the supply chain uncertainty across the stage to improve the total supply inventory planning. So moreover, smart ops is able to understand where the biggest ongoing opportunity for improvement in the supply chain. One another important technological advancement that used in retailing is the warehouse management system. Next slide. So warehouse management system, 2 minutes, sir. So WMS software integrating human activity with IT and is effective in managing warehouse businesses. Begin with the suppliers and end with the shipment to the customers. So it maintains real-time physical inventory and distributing records and other facilities. So now moving towards ERP, enterprises resource planning. So it's also help us to got to serve for better management in retailing. So customer relationship management, as we know, CRM is also another feature is concerned with the creation, development and enhancement of individualized customer relations. So next is electronic loyalty schemes. At the present time, there is a cutthroat competition among the countries. So in this regard, retailers continuously use new advanced technologies to make their business better. So electronic data exchange is also a important technology. So EDI is an extension of EPOSO because it make a mutual relationship between suppliers and retailers. So EDI help in exchanging the information from retailer to supplier computer and facilitate order delivery, not specificities, invoices, etc. So, sir, I'm just winding up. So, I want to just say that there are various technological advancements that we can use in retail management. So, we can conclude that information technology in retail aim not only to increase the effectiveness of the retail establishment in different areas of their operation, but it's also improve the customer services. So mainly due to the automation or customizations of offer over the years, as the consumer demand increase and retailers adjust to meet their increases, technology developed rapidly to support this growth. So it is technology that will help the retailer to achieve or to score better in a wild competition. So today consumer
Yeah,
have
you would have to close it now.
in
Please,
such-
just one very pressing point and then we close.
I have done so.
Thank you. I'm so thankful to you and very sorry for interrupting time and again, but we are really running out of time. And I would now, without further ado, would like to invite Dr. Manoj Vimal, ICSR postdoctoral fellow at the Giri Institute of Technology Studies in Lucknow. And he would be talking about exploring bio-entrepreneurship in India. Dr. Vimal, please help us manage time and use exactly 10 minutes. And I would remind you in the 8th minute of your presentation, but please, if you can finish before that, nothing like it. Please go ahead.
Sir, you're muted.
I'm audible to everyone?
Yes, yes. Now
Thank you, ICSR and respected chair, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, for giving me opportunity to present my very early work. It's a work in progress. I have just began this work. And the title of the work which I'm going to present today is Exploring Bio-Entrepreneurship in India. Sorry. Yeah. Schumpeter defined entrepreneurs as innovators who implement entrepreneurial change within markets where entrepreneurial.
So you are changing your slides, or they are doing it?
Yeah,
whoever somebody should keep on doing.
Sure. Change that has 5 manifestations. The introduction of a new or improved good, the introduction of a new method of production, the opening of a new market, the exploitation of a new source of supply, and.
But you have to select your next slide. It is just only the first slide is frozen. You have to select the slide number 2. Yeah. So sure. You have to select it.
Yeah. So Schumpeter defined entrepreneurs as innovators who implement entrepreneurial change within markets where entrepreneurial change has 5 manifestations. And Schumpeter's definition therefore requires entrepreneurship with innovation in the business sense. That is identifying market opportunities and using innovative approaches to exploit them. It has been argued that entrepreneurship arises as part of social and cultural transition, the break with tradition and the transition to modernity. The evidence is contradictory, and though the hypothesis seem broad, they also exclude relevant alternative possibilities. That is, that individuals and groups can be trained in entrepreneurship through formal education and apprenticeship schemes. The notion of the heroic individual entrepreneurs can serve as an ideological myth that conceals the role of academic and government initiatives in firm formation. So the focus of my research is specifically on bio-entrepreneurship. Bio-entrepreneurship is the process of creating value from life science innovation. It is referred to by several names, including bioscience entrepreneurship, life science entrepreneurship, or bioscience enterprise. Bio-entrepreneurship is complex and multidimensional in nature. A lot of researchers are still theorizing on this technology, bioscience technology-led entrepreneurship and its linkage with the society. And treating entrepreneurship as a complex social category of challenges the conventional wisdom that conceives this phenomena as purely economic in characters. Entrepreneurial passion and identities motivate entrepreneurs to identify opportunities and create new ventures, and these identities have several overlapping dimensions of evolution at individual, contextual, and cultural level. Bide has long back argued that innovative and high technology companies are considered to be the driving force behind the future growth of any economy. Science policy should reframe so that its core mission is to seed and support entrepreneurial experiments, encouraging the use of diverse technical, individual, organizational, and institutional approaches to solve a particular problem. I will, this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is a very early work. This is my postdoc research project. So what I have found the gap is that little attention has been paid to the study of bioentrepreneurship in India from an STS perspective. And we are very fortunate to have Professor Chaturvedi, who is an expert in this area. So through this project, I want to use STS tools to study this bioentrepreneurship and Indian society at large. These objectives of the study are what drives the biological researchers towards entrepreneurship, and how the social, cultural, and economical factors influence the decision to venture into bioentrepreneurship. Which kind of financial resources are used by entrepreneurs in Indian context, and what role institutes or universities play in inculcating the entrepreneurial activity into researchers while they pursuing their PhDs. The mixed methods approach will be I'm utilizing this mixed methods approach, drawing insights from the both qualitative and quantitative research methods. And I will be interviewing at least 15 to 20 bioentrepreneurs in India. And I'm going through preparation of this detailed questionnaire, and other policy documents and reports I'll be also analyzing them. And the role of institutions I'm also researching on the role of institutions, like a Department of Biotechnology is the main agency through which these entrepreneurs are being helped to start their firms or in relation to the incubation. So there are two programs: Biotechnology Industry Research Assistant Council, BIRAC, New Delhi, and another is based in Bangalore, CCAM, Center for Cellular and Molecular Platforms. And what I am interested into the whole this broader social structure of India, and how this bioentrepreneurship plays out in Indian context, given the different identities in India going on. So because this is a conference where we are linking this science, technology, and society, so I am interested in this linkage. These are some of the papers I have till now reviewed, and I will present a case of Israel here. Israel has been known as an entrepreneurial state, like some researchers have in fact given the term startup nation. So this is a study which was done in early 2000, in 2004, where these researchers came out with finding that most of the entrepreneurs in Israel are male, and they had a technical education, and they come from a small family. And since you all know that Israel has they have obligations. Citizens have an obligation to serve in the defense or in the army. They have to go through the service, and so influence of the army was the most prominent factor. Which enabled people to explore entrepreneurship in Israel. And individualism, materialism, and independence, these are two different strands in society of Israel society. So these are also the enabling factors. And in the context of Israel, what researchers argued that entrepreneurs are treated as a cultural hero. Israelis do not accept anyone's authority in principle. This is something very cultural in the context of Israel, and the researchers also said this is also one of the issue which is responsible for so many entrepreneurs in the context of Israel. And effect of the army's experience, as I earlier mentioned, this is the most prominent factor. And the case of India, there was a study led by Professor Ashutosh Varshney, and what they did, they did a survey where they asked the owners. The research question was to highlight the ownership within the different enterprises in Indian context. So their argument was the SC, ST, or OBCs, they had a political revolution, and they were interested in finding out if that translates into economic sphere or not. So they surveyed this ownership of enterprises with respect to the social structure of India. So and they came up with they used this notion of ethnic enclaves given by Portes and Sensenbrenner, and then they highlighted that OBCs have made progress in entrepreneurship, but SC and ST, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in Indian context, have remained considerably underrepresented in the entrepreneurial sphere. They said that so there is rise of Dalit entrepreneurs, millionaires actually, but they treated Varshney argued that this is a case of individual phenomena, not a society at a large. I mean, this is not a collective phenomena. So, and the potential hypothesis that the growth of enterprise depends strongly on network effects. They said that these people do not have these so strong social networks, so that is why they are not able to come into this entrepreneurship. And what broadly I'm interested, as I said, that how these bio entrepreneurs use what kind of financial capital they have access to, and what kind of education they have. Of course, they mostly will be PhDs, but if they have
Dr. Vimal, you are I expected you to help me manage time. Please do that.
1 minute only. This is the final.
Half a minute.
Yeah, sure. So I'm interested into these broader themes: access to capital, education, and exposure to developing countries, and what are their social networks, and what land ownership in their families had, and what role they think about in nation building and self-reliance, and what identity they assert in these among these entrepreneurs. So thank you, sir. So this is my very early work. This is my postdoc project.
No, I can understand. Thank you. Thanks,
thank you,
Dr. Manoj. Thanks a lot. Let me bring in our last speaker, and unfortunately, we are really left with almost no time, but let me invite Dr. Anil Kumar Reddy, PhD research scholar, ICR National Dairy Research Institute in Karnal, Haryana. And I would ask everyone to close their mics. So he would be speaking on, can dairy farming in India be transformed into a climate resilient enterprise and empirical evidence. So Dr. Reddy, as you have gathered, we have really lost time. It's about to end, but I would still give you your 8 minutes that I would remind you. And so please go ahead. 8 minutes that I would remind you. And so please go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Anil Kumar Reddy, PhD research scholar at the National Dairy Research Institute, Karnal, Haryana. So first of all, I'm very thankful to the organizers for giving me to present my study before in this conference. So the title of my study is, can dairy farming in India be transformed into a climate resilient enterprise and empirical evidence. So going further into my study, let me give a context or background to the study. If you look at, India is one of the leading producers of milk in the world, and it produces around 200 million tons every year. And climate change is the much talked about in the recent past, and every sector in the country is being impacted by climate change in very adverse way. And dairy sector is of no exception to it. So India is projected to lose around 15 million tons of milk production annually by the year 2050 due to the changing climate scenario. So climate change is impacting every individual, but not equally. Women are more vulnerable to it and are experiencing it relatively high when compared to men due to their social disadvantages factors in the society. So if you look at the importance of women in dairy farming, it is an important means of livelihood to millions of rural farmers, and women make most of it. If you look at the contribution, around 71% of the labor force in livestock farming are women, and 75 million women are engaged in dairy farming as well as in livestock farming, against 15 million men in dairy farming. So women contribute significantly in dairy farming, like they perform various activities like 64% of the feeding, 76% of the management of animals, 91% of dung disposal, and 89% in milking of animals. So if you look at the average time that is being spent by an Indian household in dairy farming, it is around 6.676 hours. And out of this, women farmers' contribution is around 5.17 hours. Even in the state of Haryana, the female participation in dairy farming is very much high. It's around 108.5 man days per year in small size farms, and it is 158.32 man days in medium, and 151.42 man days per year in large size categories of farms. So if you look at the interrelationship between women, dairy farming, and climate change, as I already told, women are the central focal point in the dairy sector, as they contribute more compared to women. And technically speaking, policy making in India as well as extension systems in India are traditionally been focusing on men only. They consider men as clients, but women have not been given that importance when we come to this policy making or extension system policy making. So women are more vulnerable to changing climate scenario due to the social disadvantage factors in society. So we at in this regard, we at Dairy Extension Division of the Institute have formulated our study for identification of the most effective climate resilient practices and popularize them among the farming community and help women farmers to sustain milk production of their dairy animals and fight negative effects of climate change. So this is part of my PhD study. So coming to the methodology of the study, many institutes under the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, like Krishi Vigyan Kendras, Agriculture Technology Application and Research Institutes, and some we have launched some program called National Institute on Climate Resilient Agriculture. Many researchers have been conducted. So of these researches and publications, we have collated 19 different climate resilient dairy farming practices in an inventory, and this inventory was introduced to 40 different stakeholders like researchers who are engaged in climate change, veterinarians, extension professionals, and these people were asked to evaluate coping capacity of these practices based on different characteristics of climate resiliency. So out of these 19 practices, an index score was calculated for each of these 19 practices. And the practices with a score of 0.88 and above are selected for further identification of practices. So 15 practices have been identified and shortlisted, and these 15 practices are further grouped into different categories like healthcare management related practices, feeding and nutritional management practices, and other practices. Finally, the experts were asked to rank these shortlisted practices, and total of 6 practices were identified as the most effective climate resilient practices based on general coefficient of concordance. And the results are as follows. Under healthcare management practices, 2 practices have been identified as most significant. Here the p-value indicates that all the 5 practices are significant, but due to the limited fund availability with us, so we have to select only 2 practices out of these 5. So we have selected the first practice and 5th practice based on the lowest mean ranks that were ranked by the professionals. So as case with healthcare management practices also, so we have selected 2 practices based on this Kendall coefficient concordance results. One is balanced concentrated mixture, another one is advisories on ration feeding to dairy animals. So the other practice, out of these 4 practices, we have selected practices on advisory services based on temperature humidity index. As we all know that the northern part of India, during the months of May, June, July, and August, the temperatures go as high as 40 to 43 degrees Celsius, with increased humidity levels. These temperature humidities will have an adverse effect on milk production of the dairy animals, so contributing to losses in the income for the women dairy farmers. So we have also picked out preparation of value-added milk products, like training, conducting training programs for women on how to prepare value-added milk products very scientifically. So concluding this, a total of 6 practices have been identified as best fit to improve the capacity of Haryana against the negative effects of climate change. So experts feel that these 6 practices really help farming community in achieving improved resilience of dairy farming sector and helps in maintaining the milk production levels in the wake of climate change. So further, we are studying that how these 6 practices are being used as extension interventions. We have divided village into treatment and control groups, and we are using these practices as extension interventions. Like we are being middle input to farmers, conducting training programs, distributing literature, and we are not pushing advisory services in the form of SMSs to the farmers in treatment groups in the other study area. And we are seeing if they could really improve adaptive practices of farm women against the climate change. And for this purpose, we are using different research methodology to bring out if they are really having impact in adaptive capacities. So it is in difference in different methodologies and techniques to identify impacts of climate change. Yes, sir. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Reddy. I think interesting presentation. We are already delayed by 5 minutes. I do not know if Dr. Aditi would give us 5 more minutes for us to have a quick round of some clarifications or anything. Do we have time, Dr. Aditi?
Yes, sir, we can go ahead with that.
So thank you. I think we have some very interesting presentations. Thanks to Dr. Kenneth Barroga, Dr. Myint Kai, Dr. Pradeep Choudhury, Dr. Priya Dahiya, Dr. Manoj Vimal, and Dr. Anil Kumar Reddy. I think some very interesting presentations have come up, and these presentations have thrown up lights which are all across, and I think there are common threads, and the common threads are in terms of we connecting the social transition that we are seeing with technology, how technology is affecting the social transition, and how transitioning technology brings in further change in society. So my effort has always been to see, and my emphasis is always to see on inclusion and not so much bothering about exclusion. So the moment we see and get into the negative track, we then end up losing out much more. So how we enhance inclusion, as the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, they say no one should be left behind. And I think with that idea, we should see how science, technology, innovation can really help us bring in greater coherence. And that's where I think Dr. Kenneth Barroga's principal component analysis for smart manufacturing technology is important. And I do not know if he's still there, but I was very much keen to ask him in terms of how we prepare for future skills. If 496 firms, and out of that 140 micro, 35 medium, 321 small firms, if they are not picking up technology, which is in their interest, smart manufacturing technology is in their interest, but why they are not picking up? And I think the answer comes from Dr. Myint Kai, when she says that skills are missing in e-commerce in Myanmar, and as a result, shopkeepers have little to do, which is the point again we hear from Dr. Priya Dahiya, who says that logistics allocation, point of sales, data management, smart operations in value chain, they are the ones which require skill. And then Dr. Pradeep Choudhury also emphasized in terms of the focus of the new education policy, but he emphasizes also on multi-skills, multidisciplinary convergences that are necessary for coping up with technology. So my essential observation after these 4 presentations of the first series is in terms of how we prepare ourselves for new technologies. And that's a question all of us are grappling with. The amount of effort that is needed is much more than ever before. In last 20 years, technology transition has happened systematically and continuously, and at such pace that we do not have time to adjust. And as a result, society, which used to change after 20 years with one technology, then after 30 years, last 20 years, technologies have changed very fast. And it's not just technologies, economic policies have also changed. And as a result, Dr. Manoj Vimal is right that exclusions have happened. People are out. They are not in sync. But my point is that in last couple of years, with financial inclusion as a policy, with JAM Trinity, India has tried to bring in digital power. And that's what our speaker from Myanmar, Dr. Myint was saying, that during lockdown, during COVID, transitions and transactions in digital world have multiplied. E-commerce has multiplied. So these are bringing in new technologies on everybody's door. And that is something which is remarkable. So what I now intend to do is to just quickly go around the table to all the speakers for 1 minute each. And would try to bring in the efforts that are needed for us for future policy lessons. So just 1 minute each, and I would reverse the order. I would first go to Dr. Anil Kumar Reddy, who is still working on his project. So Dr. Reddy, just half a minute, half a second, just tell us what would be your future area of work. What would be your future area?
Yes, sir. We are actually working on women farmers who have been neglected by the policy making bodies in India. So actually, it is a dairy farming is a sustainable mode of income for women farmers who live at the rural parts of the country. So we are focusing more on them. So if we come to the summer sections, summer months of this country, the high summer coupled with humidities have huge impact on dairy farming sector. So
no,
as I have told,
got it. So some methodology, Anil, would be very important in terms of how you capture only the climate resilient technologies, the cost of that, and the scope for women to adopt them. But thank you. Thanks a lot. Let me go to Dr. Manoj Vimal. You are on mute.
So I have just began this project. So for next 2 years, I will be focusing on this bioentrepreneur.
Please do that. Please do that. And you are ICSSR postdoctoral fellow. Yeah. So ICSSR would also guide you in terms of how you are going to go forward, isn't it?
Yes.
So Dr. Aditi, I hope you have noted. So you have a lot of work to do with Manoj. Dr. Priya Dahiya, are you there or you have left? I think she has left. No, she's there.
I'm there, sir.
Yeah, please. Do you want to say anything in half a minute?
Yes, sir. I want to say something. My paper is about emerging technology in retail management, and I'm basically.
No, so my question was what you would like to do in future.
Yes, sir. In era of globalization, consumer point of view or for a retailer, they both need advanced technology. So IT can help us in a different way, not in retailing, but in other areas. In this globalization, in this connected world, we need advanced technology.
Thank you, Dr. Pradeep Choudhury.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity last minute. So that now we are collaborating with Delhi Science and Technology Cluster. So that is Principal Scientific Advisor Program, that is IIT Delhi, Osaka, and many other JNU and other institutes are collaborating. That is a very long objective. We have one on effective education. We have 6 themes on water management, on the air crisis, air pollution and all. So effective education is one where we are trying to make a system, making a change at the system level by training the trainers model. So we are reaching to the school teacher, we are reaching to the college teachers and training them to make a change at the classroom that will actually make the changes at the larger level. So that is going on and it will continue for 5 years and I am effectively involved with that.
Very good. Thank you. Do we still have Dr. Myint Key? I don't see her here. Dr. Kenneth Barroga, I saw your message. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Sachi. In the Philippines, to foster the inclusive innovation ecosystem, we are planning to establish the regional inclusive innovation centers in the regions. And we also want to prioritize the micro, small, and medium enterprises in all our programs and projects, so that they will be inclusive in terms of development. And the last one is we are planning to establish the grassroots innovation for inclusive development, not only here in the Philippines, but to the ASEAN level. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks to all our panel. And this is a great task ICSR has done. Never before ICSR has bothered about technology and social science. I must congratulate ICSR for venturing into this. Some of us who have been working for more than 30 years now in this field are very well aware of the nuances and importance. So congratulations, Dr. Aditi, to you, to ICSR, to Member Secretary Professor Malhotra. I think India and all developing countries in Asia, they require science, technology, innovation for economic development, for development of various sectors that we heard today, be that bio-enterprise or dairy sector, whatever you name it. So please congratulate Professor Malhotra and team at ICSR. I hope you would continue. I must also thank my colleague, Dr. Amit Kumar, for facilitating this discussion and my participation. So thank you, and back to you, Dr. Aditi.
It was a pleasure to listen to the researchers and actually the possibilities in the ever-emerging economic sector, more so because of COVID. And I thank all the presenters and our esteemed chair, Professor Chaturvedi, for his enriching words and definitely his humble presence. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. We close it now. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.